Hi, this is Brandon Swalich, President of Starkey. I want to thank our Starkey Australia team and customers for joining us today as we introduce you to the world's best-sounding, best-performing hearing aid, Livio Edge AI. We are committed to providing you with the service and technology you've grown to expect from us, and we will never take your partnership for granted. Thank you again, and welcome to technology's leading edge.
Everybody, and welcome to Technology's Leading Edge. Before we get started, we'd like to take just a few minutes to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country on which we meet today, and the traditional owners of country throughout Australia. We recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We have a wonderful team here with you today. My name is Judy Grobstein, and I'm the Manager of Education and Audiology here at Starkey Australia. I'm glad to introduce our wonderful Managing Director, Don Rollings, and we're super excited to have Dr. Dave Fabry with us all the way from the US, our Chief Innovations Officer. Beyond that, we're really excited that we have our amazing Australia customers, but also customers throughout the Asia-Pacific region. So you'll notice that you have a poll to the right of your screen, and we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. I know we have some people from Singapore, Taiwan, the Philippines, so let us know where you're from. And nice to have a variety of people tuning in today. Now, before we get started, I would like to go through a few important housekeeping items. Today's session is endorsed by Accord, Audiology Australia, as well as HESA. In order to get your points, you must remain logged on for the entire session, and you all must complete a 10-question multiple choice quiz with a passing score of 70% or higher. If you are an Audiology Australia member, you must also complete your CPD reflections as well. Today's course has 3 learning objectives. The first is that by the end of this course, you will be able to identify at least 2 future technologies that will disrupt the hearing health industry. You'll also be able to list at least 2 ways the emerging technologies, such as artificial intelligence and embedded sensors, can help improve a patient's hearing health outcomes. And lastly, you'll be able to describe how Livio Edge AI can provide enhanced health, wellness, and a gateway of information to our patients. So with that, I'm very excited to introduce Don Rollings.
Thank you, Judy. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate your time that you've given up to spend with us for the next 90 minutes or so. So thank you very much for being here. First of all, I'd like to say sorry that we can't be with you, but in the world that we do live in, we have to remain safe, and I hope that everybody is at home or in your clinic in a safe environment. Maybe you've got a cup of tea in your hand and some Tim Tams on the side as well. So welcome. I'm really excited for you all to be here joining us live. So we've got a lot in store for you today. We've got lots of different presenters. I would encourage you, like I said, to relax, turn your sound up, make sure you've got some good speakers on your computer, and let's get talking about what we're here for today. When we think about innovation, the words that spring to my mind clearly is Starkey, but Starkey is really talking about not just the product moving forward in terms of innovation, but more about what other aspects we can offer you, such as hearing screens in your clinic, rehabilitation models and such. So what we're trying to do really is to grow the industry in the way that innovation is leading. If we look at the three pillars at Starkey, we look at technology, so the product, how we look at innovation within the product itself, looking at the patient and trying to understand what is it that your patients need from a supplier, from you as a provider of them as well. So what do they come to you for? What are their needs and wants? And how does innovation influence that? And the third main pillar is looking at the market. So looking at what's out in the market, not just the local Australia market, but globally across the world as well. When we think about the world and the expansion plans that Starkey has, it's very true to say we have about a 3 to 5 year plan in terms of research and development to make sure that our next generation in machine learning and artificial intelligence is really pushing the edge and getting across to that really important intelligence feature set that we're going to talk to you a lot about today. But we can't do that alone, and I think where we're very strong is partnering with our partners. We have Apple, you'll know all the logos on the screen there, but we've got Apple, Google, Amazon and Samsung. It's very important for us at Starkey to make sure we work with those partners so that, again, we can really push that window of opportunity and innovation to you. I know you're probably all very familiar with the numbers in front of you, but the thing that really stands out on this slide for me particularly is the amount of people that have a disabling hearing loss. And if you look at the numbers, 466 million, that's almost 500 million people across the world with hearing loss that needs, they need help from you, people like you. The thing that jumps out from that really is one word. And I think when we think about that word, it's opportunity. Opportunity is here for all of us. It's here for all of your patients. And for you whether you're a business owner, whether you're an audiologist or an audiometrist, whether you're training, whether you're new to this amazing industry, really encourage you to think about, challenge yourself. Look at what opportunities do you have in your world. There's a lot out there. And why Starkey? You might be thinking that. We're really here to work with you, to work with the people that really want to help your customers, your patients, your consumers hear better. We care more about you as consumers and your patients to make sure that what we deliver to you is actually a very useful device and gives your patients the right outcomes that you're looking for. Those are the things that are really important to us, as well as getting on the map and making hearing devices look cool. Now, there's a gentleman that I'm going to introduce to you right now, and there's no one better for me to introduce when I'm thinking about why hearing devices are becoming cool and they will be the product that people will want to purchase. Dr. Dave Fabry is joining us live from Minneapolis. So I think from memory, it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to ask if he's got his pajama bottoms on. He may well have them on. I hope he's excited to be here as well. Dave is our Chief Innovations Officer based at Global Head Office for Starkey. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the amazing and wonderful, glad you can join us today, Dave Fabry.
Thank you so much, Dawn. It is indeed my pleasure to be with you, at least in a virtual sense. It is 1 a.m. And at Starkey, we like to say tomorrow starts today. And in this case, that expression is used quite literally. Normally, I'm a morning person. So this also gives me the experience to have all the benefits of jet lag without the annoying airplane food. But I would, as much as I would prefer to be there physically with you, these are indeed challenging times, and I don't want to make light of that. And we're delighted to introduce and launch Livio Edge AI, which really continues the tradition that we established when we introduced Livio AI in August of 2018. Now that feels like forever ago, but at that point in time, we were really on a journey toward reinventing the hearing aid to employ embedded sensors, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to redefine what it is that people think of when they think of modern hearing aid technology. First and foremost, however, as Dawn indicated, we do not stray from our roots. When Mr. Austin established this company in 1967, he did so by focusing on patient-focused technology that provides the best sounding, best performing devices in every situation where hearing aid users want to benefit from their devices. As we've extended into this journey, if you will, that began with Livio AI in 2018, and which Livio Edge AI pushes that platform further through the use of artificial intelligence to mimic and actually surpass human intelligence. We've done so under the guidance and direction of our Chief Technology Officer, Achin Bhowmick, who headed the Perceptual Computing Division at Intel Corporation before joining us several years ago. Now, there's no one better to explain the benefits of how artificial intelligence can enhance that fundamental single purpose of hearing aids to take us in this new direction.
Livio AI, as incredible as it is, it was only the first step for us into unleashing the amazing potential of AI, artificial intelligence. It's time to up the game. So what I'm going to do is tell you what's the latest cutting edge of AI, the age of edge AI. For those of you that have been following machine learning and AI, you would know that the last weeks, last few months, this is being talked about because of the step up. There's the unfathomable developments that this technology is enabling. It's intelligence at the edge. Largest companies on the planet, ranging from Intel, IBM, Apple, Microsoft, Google, are working on this cutting edge of edge AI. So what is this? Edge AI, simply put, is an implementation of artificial intelligence that builds on distributed computing. We have a processor in the hearing aid itself, and we connect to the power of iPhone or an Android phone, which is connected to the cloud. I showed you just how ginormous the compute power there is. And with this, then, we connect smart devices to the smart cloud. Unlike the traditional AI, where the cloud is smart, but the device, not so much. To do edge AI, we had to work with the best in the field to re-architect the artificial intelligence engine, the machine learning infrastructure, to bring the technology to the edge, which is why you are going to see just the beginning. You'll see news articles last few weeks, but it's really taking off. The next year, next couple of years, while rest of the other companies in the hearing aid industry will start to understand what machine learning is, it's time for us to go to the next level. So we are happy to add Starkey to this list in bringing edge AI technology to Livio AI.
So as Achin indicated, really what we're focused on is, and if you contemplate for a moment that you really don't hear with your ears. They're the peripheral mechanism for picking up sound and feeding it to that remarkable engine of the brain, similar to eyes and nose, picking up the vision and smell and the other senses. That's integrated at the brain to really take action, that sense, reason, act, and adapt. And it's really artificial intelligence is an umbrella term that encompasses all aspects of this machine learning and artificial intelligence that Achin mentioned. Machine learning has actually been implemented in hearing aids for some time through acoustic classification of different environments. But where we're seeing now is the implementation encompassing both onboard the hearing instruments, incorporating the smartphone, and then cloud-based computing that can actually improve performance and customize, personalized performance over time. We're seeing those developments, and we'll be discussing the way that we're incorporating that in Livio AI in the next hour or so. Another area of neural networks or deep learning and neural networks is a little bit of a future view, and we'll discuss this at the end in terms of a subset of machine learning in which multi-layered neural networks can actually learn by taking advantage of these vast amounts of data that are available when we're putting data up to the cloud, pulling it back down, employing machine learning and artificial intelligence to customize and personalize performance like has never been possible in devices. And it's really an exciting time to be in this industry. As I indicated, machine learning has already been something that we have incorporated in hearing aids, but as Achin mentioned, and as Dawn mentioned, we're delighted to partner with some technology leaders, both within our field and outside the traditional hearing aid field. Yesterday, June 29th, was an anniversary from 2007 when Apple launched the first iPhone and had people standing outside of Apple stores all over the world. At the expo in January of 2020, which now feels a very long time ago, we had the pleasure of having Apple's Director of Global Accessibility Policy and Initiatives, Sarah Herlinger, with us. And she spoke from the stage about Apple's tradition and culture of innovation. And she talked about that innovation is an easy word to say, but it's incredibly hard to do. And Apple's tradition has been to define innovation as how it transforms people's lives. And that is consistent with, as I mentioned, the premise upon which Starkey was developed, which is focusing on patient-focused technology to help people hear better, live better. Also at the expo, we had an extraordinary experience to also have Phil Moyer, the Vice President of Google Cloud, share the stage. This was truly remarkable because it's very unusual to have Apple and Google present at conferences outside of their own events, much less sharing the stage with each other. Phil pointed to the fact that Livio is really the culmination of some of the most advanced artificial intelligence and computing on the planet today across the entire field of healthcare and also across most industries, as he indicated. He reported and related how Achin and Starkey are breaking new ground, not just in the field of hearing, but in the field of medical devices. And so we're really privileged and pleased to be able to not have to develop all of this technology ourselves and reinvent the wheel, but really partner with people who are best in their field along the area of smartphones, cloud computing, etc. And when we talk about the edge of AI and the way that we incorporate it into this latest product, it really begins with edge mode. As I mentioned, with Livio AI, we were the industry's first device that incorporated embedded sensors, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And now with Livio Edge AI, we're the first to introduce instant optimized adjustments that put the power of AI at the patient's fingertips. Let me explain a little bit about what I mean by that. When we talk about Hearing Reality Pro, which features edge mode, first we have to highlight the fact that Hearing Reality Pro really encompasses a host of different parameters, including acoustic classification, that is monitoring the environment. And every 6 milliseconds in each of the bands, it is monitoring for the presence of speech energy, noise energy, or both, and updating and incorporating only those features that are important and appropriate to that specific environment, using real-time binaural signal processing, adaptive directionality, adaptive feedback cancellation, and over 100 other features that are patented globally by Starkey. Sometimes that level of control isn't enough for personalization or customization by patients, and sometimes they want even more control. What I mean by that is now incorporating those embedded sensors, the patient can simply double tap on the side of their device to instantly perform an acoustic scan of any environment, any challenging environment where they're listening, and it will optimize speech understanding for that environment. One thing we also like to say at Starkey is hearing is believing. So what I want to do is have you listen to an acoustic sample, if you will, and a comparison between two conditions in a challenging listening environment. It happens to be a sporting event. And what you're going to hear are two individuals conversing when the hearing aid has been optimized for an individual with hearing loss, but with edge mode off. Then after a short segment, you'll hear a second sample when edge mode has been enabled to optimize comfort and clarity for that specific listening environment. So normally, if we were all together, we could carefully control the listening environment to ensure that we were minimizing background noise and we had control over the sound systems. This time, we're at the mercy of your computer speakers or your headphones that you're listening to this webinar today. So what I'd like you to do, you'll see after you hear this comparison, first of edge mode off, followed by edge mode on. What I'd like you to do is you'll see a poll and indicate, could you hear the difference in the second example, the two individuals communicating? Was it easier to hear them communicating in that second example? Let's go ahead and listen now. First, edge mode off, followed by edge mode on, and then please use the poll to indicate whether you could hear the difference.
He's going to take it. He's going to take it. He's going to take it. We're going to go. He's gone. He's going. He's going to take it. He's going to take it. He's going to take it. We're going to go. He's gone. No. No, not a flag. Come on, ref. Are you kidding me?
So in the first condition, you could hear it was a sporting event, two individuals communicating. Weren't really sure, in my opinion, whether you were at a baseball game or an American football game, because you heard going, like the ball was leaving the stadium. Hopefully, in the second example, you heard that they were actually at an American football game, because you could hear, I half kiddingly say, the Minnesota Vikings are the primary opponent, if you will, the primary competition to my favorite team, the Green Bay Packers. And you could hear in the second example that they were complaining about the officiating. And so hopefully you could hear that difference between the first example and the second example. Now, let me explain how it is that we're really relaxing the normal operating parameters that are in place when you're applying the initial targets appropriate for a person's hearing loss and leaving those controls in place for all around listening. I make the analogy to Tesla. When they introduced the first Tesla automobile, they had an insane mode and then ultimately a ludicrous mode, which optimized performance for extreme acceleration. You probably don't want or need it on all of the time, but by removing the restrictions for all around driving, it enabled Tesla become the fastest production car in the world. By comparison, we employed machine learning and artificial intelligence in combination with that double tap. It facilitates optimized performance with edge mode for extreme listening environments. You heard the noisy example in that stadium, but I can echo from wearing the devices myself for the past several months that it also works well for soft or distant speech. And on your screen now, you can see a couple of comments made first by a participant who was in the field study that we used when launching this product to market. And they commented that it crisped up soft voices by simply double tapping and optimizing, by removing those all around restrictions to actually optimize gain, directionality, noise management. So in the quiet environment, it works equally well to what you heard in that noisy comparison. The second comment here listed from a focus group participant highlighted the fact that all of the technology to employ edge mode is resident on the hearing instruments. We've truly placed the power of artificial intelligence at the patient's fingertips. With that simple double tap, it provides an instant assessment, acoustic scan of that environment in the environment where they're having difficulty, and then optimizing comfort and clarity for them in even those challenging, noisy, and quiet or distant speech environments. Now, The other thing that I want to talk about, making those challenging environments a little less challenging, is something that you've also been asking from us for a while. Some of you may be aware that for some time now, we've been able to directly stream not only from the iPhone since 2014 when we launched Halo, but also from Google Pixel 3 and 4 phones. More recently in January, when we had the Expo, we also announced that now this is a Samsung Galaxy S10 phone, and this is capable not only of controlling the app as it has been in the past, but streaming directly from these latest Samsung phones, the Galaxy phones, directly to the devices without the need for an intermediary device. So we know that many of you have been asking for people who are satisfied with Android streaming, and they want to be able to become as addicted to their smartphones as the rest of us. And so we really feel that we've listened to you and we've responded by introducing a broader array of solutions for Android streaming among those market leaders like those Samsung phones. And if you go to the Starkey.com website, you'll see an updated list of compatible Android and iPhone devices that are available for direct streaming to the devices. The other topic that I want to discuss that is one that's been of interest to me since I was a doctoral student back in the previous millennium, and that is the fact that most individuals, when they first start to notice some hearing loss, particularly those aging individuals who, like myself, are a member of the baby boom generation, they start to notice that they are having difficulty in noisy listening environments. And in this case, even with the development of sophisticated directional microphone technology, you can only provide about a 4 dB improvement in signal to noise ratio versus a properly fit omnidirectional device in those challenging environments that are the typical cocktail party where there's diffuse noise around them. And so sometimes hearing aids aren't enough in those situations. And so we're delighted to introduce Table Mic. And I'm showing this here, you're seeing it on the screen as a Bluetooth enabled device that is an accessory that enables enhanced communication in both quiet and noisy listening environments. Table Mic incorporates 8 directional microphones and beamforming technology that can be used in one of 3 modes. The first is an automatic mode where if the device is placed on a tabletop, it will search and find the dominant talker at any point in time and isolate that talker to provide up to 10 dB of benefit relative to an omnidirectional microphone in that diffuse condition. A second mode is one where you can actually freeze 1 or 2 even of the directional microphones. If I go to dinner with 1 or 2 people, I can freeze and isolate those beams in the direction of where they're seated, as you see in the example on the screen now. And that will then isolate in that fixed mode and provide up to 10 dB of benefit versus an omnidirectional condition. The third mode that is available is an omnidirectional mode. So if you want to use this as a portable TV listening device or a remote microphone, this can be worn around the neck or set on a podium for a classroom that provides an operating range of up to 50 feet or 15 meters with a very fast recharge time of 2 hours from completely depleted to fully recharged and a streaming time of up to 12 hours. So providing that function for distant or noisy communication environments that make those environments a little less challenging. Once again, though, I would point to hearing is believing. And what I want to do is give you another opportunity for an audio demo. First, what you'll hear now is a diffuse environment with 5 talkers speaking in a noisy environment. You're going to be listening in the first condition for a female talker. That first condition is for a properly fitted omnidirectional microphone condition, followed immediately by the second condition where Table Mic is isolating the location of the target, the female talker. What I'd like you to do again, you'll see a poll pop up, and I'd like you to indicate in the second condition, is it easier to hear the female talker in the second condition? So let's listen.
I wanted the letters to have there are 2 sections. Usually there's the historical part. I wanted the letters to be passionate. There are two sections, essentially. There's the historical part of the book.
Again, we're at the mercy of your speakers or your headphones, but hopefully you could hear that individual speaking in that second condition. I think this is particularly important that you can pair the table mic with the hearing aids directly. You don't even need the smartphone along with you. If someone doesn't want to use the smartphone app to control the devices, I can control the mode by simply tapping on the top. I can turn it on. I can increase or decrease the volume, all on the table mic. All I need to do is slip this into my pocket, take my hearing aids, go into the noisy environment or the lecture environment. I have everything I need in the palm of my hands and in my ears to get that benefit of up to 10 dB improvement in signal to noise ratio over the omnidirectional microphone. We think that table mic provides a multi-purpose, multi-function accessory that complements that already comprehensive array of accessories that we have available for TV, for remote microphones or remote control, all in one package. And so with that, I'm going to turn the podium over, the virtual podium, if you will, over to Judy to continue now.
All right, thank you so much, Dave. All right, so I have the pleasure of talking to you about the fact that Starkey has always been the best at providing personalized performance to your patients. And the reason for that is we've always been known to be the company to go to when it comes to custom products. We've led even since the 1980s when we were the first to develop the first in the canal. In the 90s, we developed the first CIC and also the first IIC after that. So we continue to provide the best when it comes to custom products. We can provide a lot of power in those products, one, because they fit so great in your patient's ears. We also have an amazing feedback canceller. So with that, we continue to lead the industry, and I'm super excited to announce today that we're the first to introduce the world's first 2.4 gigahertz custom lithium-ion rechargeable hearing aids. All right, so let's take a look at these custom products. You're gonna have amazing battery life. So in a fully charged battery, they'll get 23 hours of battery life, and that's even with doing about 4 hours of streaming. The charge time is incredibly fast, so in just 3.5 hours, they'll be able to fully charge their devices. And the best is it's using 2.4 gigahertz wireless technology for direct connectivity to iPhones and the Android phones that Dave mentioned earlier, as well as our suite of accessories. If we look at what's in these custom products, they are using our Thrive platform, so the same platform as all of the Livio devices. Again, it's using lithium-ion rechargeable technology, so amazing battery life. And these custom rechargeable devices will be available in every single Livio Edge AI, Livio AI, and Livio product, regardless of technology tier. The style options will include an ITC, a half shell, and a full shell ITE. And it not only uses that great 2.4 gigahertz wireless technology, as I mentioned, for direct connectivity to mobile phones and accessories, but it also, with the Livio Edge AI and Livio AI devices, incorporates our embedded sensor technology. So that means they have access to all of the sensor healthable features, such as fall alerts. One of them is the double tap option. So Dave mentioned edge mode, and an easy way to access that is by simply double tapping the hearing aids. So with the custom products, they would just take 2 fingers and simply tap about where the contacts, the battery contacts are on the device. So really easy to get that double tap technology. When it comes to the charger, it's very similar to the one that we've been using with our RIC rechargeable devices. Similar platform for how it's used as well. So it will fit most of the custom devices. The performance is the same, so they place the devices in the charger. It will automatically power them off. When they take them out, it will power them back on. It has 2 new charging posts, and they are not right and left specific. So really easy for the patient, especially those with dexterity issues. Now the charge time is pretty fast, so to get that full 23 hours of battery life, it just takes about 3.5 hours. But let's say your patient just needs a little bit, maybe at the end of the day they forgot to charge them the night before. In just 15 minutes time, it will give them an additional 2 hours of battery life. And if we kind of take a look at these amazing custom rechargeable devices and we sort of pull it apart, I really like this image because we can really see all of the design and innovation that goes into it. We modeled this over thousands of impressions and ears to really get it right, even right down to those contacts for the charging posts. When it comes to custom products, we know the best way to get a good fitting custom product really is with that good ear impression. It's really the ear that dictates what we're capable of building. So really take that effort to make sure you're sending in a complete good impression, and we'll get you the best custom rechargeable hearing aid that we can. So I want to switch gears from that and talk a little bit about our health apps. We put a lot of work into giving you amazing apps for your patients to truly empower them and give them technology right at their fingertips. Our app that we have is called our Thrive app, and we continue to improve the design of this. So several months ago, we improved the user interface to make it more user-friendly for your patients. So there's a nice, easy navigation bar at the bottom of the screen where they have access to their accessories, their Thrive score, they can customize. All of that is right there on that easy navigation bar. And you'll see that from the first one, they now have easier access to the memories as well. One thing we're really excited, as I said, we just want to make this as easy as possible for your patients, and we're introducing a new feature specific to the Livio Edge AI devices, which is the industry's first and only voice-activated commands. So we know that a lot of our patients are seniors, a lot of them have dexterity issues, maybe vision issues, some cognitive decline, so we really want to make things as easy as possible for them. So now, with a simple double tap of the hearing aids, they can utilize voice-activated commands to actually control their hearing aids. So for example, I could double tap and say, change to my outdoor memory. There's lots of options that they have. They can not only change the memory, they can also double tap and ask it to increase or decrease the volume, mute the hearing aids, and also set a reminder. This is a great feature. They can double tap, remind me to feed the dog later today, or whatever thing they need a reminder for. So it's really amazing technology. So what I'd like to do now is hand it back over to Dave, who's going to do a live walkthrough of everything you have in the Thrive mobile app.
Great, thanks, Judy. So right now, actually on your screen, you're seeing a live feed from my iPhone, which is set up to my RIC devices. I'll give an homage to my baby boom heritage again. I'm in quadraphonic sound today, and that I'm wearing both custom and RIC devices. The Who, it used to be the Who, now millennials will say Who, but this is a live feed. And what you'll see, as Judy said, what we've done since we originally introduced the Thrive app with Livio AI, we have taken feedback that has been provided by you, the providers, and then as well by patients regarding the user interface to ensure that they not only have the sophistication of control of all of the different features that you've become accustomed to in translation and transcription, but then also to have that ease of use and simplicity and elegance of the user interface. So for those who are familiar with the Thrive app as it existed with AI, what you'll see is we've modified it and enhanced it really to simplify the user interface. And what you'll see is that we've devoted a little bit more real estate to the basic functionality for adjusting volume, for muting the devices, and even for showing, as Judy mentioned, the current memory, including those programmed by the professional, as well as custom memories that might be added by the individual. We still have the capability of going in and monitoring the Thrive score. I'm embarrassed by my Thrive score today, but again, please remember that it is only 1:30 in the morning or 1:40 in the morning now. But my body score, I've gotten up and done a few steps today. I will later on get after this and try to max out my body score, which is 100 for those familiar encompassing then steps of 10,000 a day, 30 minutes of exercise, and the stand, which I think is particularly important for our patient population because we know that musculoskeletal strength is correlated with something as simple as just getting around and moving around for a few minutes every hour. The brain score, this is really more than a Fitbit for your ears too. That brain score, if you will, comprises the three elements. Still, we've renamed them for simplicity's sake slightly to look at 12 hours of use of the hearing aids per day. So you got to use them. And then the engagement, the social engagement score is using the acoustic classifier to really monitor the environment for a certain amount of time every day to target listening to speech. And then the third one is really the diversity and complexity of the listening environments encountered on a daily basis. This one's my challenge on a daily basis during the COVID era, because increasingly we're not in noisy environments as much as we typically are. But so in this case, then we still see the Thrive score spinning up to that range between 0 and 200 every day. And we can log and motivate ourselves to try to hit that physical activity and social engagement score. The other thing that you may recognize is that instead of the hamburger menus, if you will, were in the upper left-hand and upper right-hand corner, we've concentrated them down in the lower ribbon menu to see that home screen, the adjustment screen, and then actually, because as I've paired an accessory, in this case the table mic, which I mentioned can be used with the instruments without the need for the app, it also will populate that lower ribbon menu if you have an accessory paired with the devices, so that it does offer the patient the convenience of being able to control the level of the streaming volume, as well as the hearing aid microphone volume. So if they want to stream something and then shut off all of the ambient sounds, they can do that. Or if they want to still have the benefit of that ambient sounds in the environment while enjoying streaming from a remote mic or a TV, they can enable that balance from the control of the app without having to reach for or walk across the room to change on the accessory itself. The other things that I want to highlight briefly include, as Judy mentioned, the reminders. I'll program my left device to engage and disengage edge mode. The right device I use for the personal voice assistant or voice commands now. And as Judy indicated, what we can do is we can actually tap and ask it to increase volume, change to the outdoor program as she illustrated, or add a reminder in this case that will remind me. I don't think I'll need a reminder to go to sleep at 3 a.m., but I could do that, and I'll hear an acoustic reminder to tell me to do just that. And the last thing I want to show, in addition to those features like self-check, which I think is a really useful one during this COVID time, to have the patient assess whether all systems are go on their device before they schedule an appointment to come in and see you. But the other point I want to make is just Hearing Care Anywhere. You will have the opportunity for a full class on this coming up. I think we'll make those announcements at the end of this seminar. But one of the enhancements that we made for the COVID era was to enable you to send a secure single-use code that can be entered into the app by the patient without them needing to come back into the office to enable the Hearing Care Anywhere functionality if it wasn't enabled at the time of the initial fitting, so that you can really minimize the number of times that the patient has to come in just to enable and facilitate that Hearing Care Anywhere. But you will have the opportunity for a much deeper dive on Hearing Care Anywhere at a later date. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Judy to talk about our next topic, which I'm really excited to demo for you in just a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Dave. That was a great walkthrough. But what I want to talk to you about now is really how we think about our patients and how we think of them really as a whole. And a lot of times that includes a loved one. As an audiologist, when I see patients, I often ask them to bring a loved one with them, because oftentimes the people in their lives know a little bit more about what's going on and where they're struggling than they do. We know that many of our patients are seniors, and we know that a lot of them want to maintain that sense of independence. They want to stay in their homes as long as they possibly can, even if that means that they might have to have some assistance from their loved ones or caregivers. So with that, we're super excited to introduce to you today the industry's first app designed for the caregiver or the loved one. And we call this app the Thrive Care app. So the great thing about this app is the patient is still in control. So when they set up their Thrive app, they can actually invite a loved one in to be a caregiver. So from a privacy standpoint, unless they invite somebody in, they don't have any access to the information, but they can invite them in. They can invite as many caregivers as they want, and then the caregiver will receive an invitation via email. They can download the Thrive Care app and get great information. With the Thrive app, we're collecting a lot of amazing data. As you know, our hearing aids are capable of detecting if somebody has a fall and alerting loved ones. So you may have a patient who has a history of falling, or maybe they've been told by their GP that they have cardiovascular disease and they need to stay healthier and more active and get out and walk more. This gives the caregiver a chance to really see that data. You might have a patient who maybe has a bit of cognitive decline or dementia and they forget to put their hearing aids in. The caregiver can actually see the use time, so they can see maybe the patient isn't wearing the hearing aids. They need to give them a call up and remind them to put them in. So really everybody benefits from this Thrive Care app. From the patient standpoint, they get that continued sense of independence and they know support is going to be there for them because somebody is seeing what's going on in their lives. From the caregiver stand of view, they have peace of mind and awareness as to what's going on in their loved one's life. And as a provider, you know that your patient is getting the best out of all of the technology that we offer. So I'm going to have Dave do a demo of the Thrive Care app. And I do want to mention, I noticed that Dave's body score was quite low, and he always has an excuse. Yeah, it's only 1 a.m. there. But let's have him take a look at the Thrive Care app and see my body score, because I ate too many Tim Tams the other day, so I went out for a long 13K run this morning. So we'll see if Dave can set some goals and in the meantime, give you a quick demo of our Thrive Care app. Dave?
Just remember, revenge is best served cold, Judy. And by the end of the day, I would encourage those of you who do not follow me on social media, follow me, and we'll compare Judy's score at the end of my day with the end of her day. But now you should be seeing first the Thrive app. And I'm really excited about this feature, and for a number of reasons. As Judy indicated, many of you have as best practice the suggestion or perhaps even the mandate that patients bring in a family member with them to assist in that selection and counseling process. And I've seen amazing things happen where a patient may have had expectations that family members may think less of him or her when they are in this decision process and the cognitive dissonance, particularly those first-time users. But imagine being able to continue to involve that family member in this process after the devices have been selected and they're wearing the devices. So what you're seeing again is my Thrive app first, and I want to show you from the perspective of the patient. The patient is in control of who they share the data with and exactly what they share with those individuals. So now I'm going to look back at the app from the Thrive app. I'm going to go on the ribbon menu on the bottom, that lower hamburger menu, if you will, on the far right-hand side, and click on that. And right underneath Hearing Care Anywhere, you'll see Thrive Care. And in this case, you'll see I have a number of active connections and then as well a number of pending connections. Now, from a practical standpoint, there's really no practical maximum number of people that I can give permission to view aspects of my data. I, as the hearing aid user, am under control. So I'll go to Judy and I'll say that, I can share my engagement and environment scores with her, exercise or stand, or as she mentioned, you don't even have to be one of the trusted 3 contacts that are receiving fall alerts via text to notify whether or not and track whether that individual has suffered a fall. I can disable any one of these features at any point in time. I'm in control. And then let's look at from the perspective of the Thrive Care app, which is a separate app that the loved one or the professional provider downloads. And let's go to Judy's score. And so what? She's got a 168. It's the afternoon there. And yes, she did get 18,000 steps. She got out for a run. Good for you, Judy. Do you want to alert the clap sounds again? And then she did get some exercise in. That wasn't a really good rate for that many steps. You were running at a fairly slow pace. She was standing 10 of the 12 hours, again, for that musculoskeletal strength, using the hearing aids for about 9.5 hours already, engaging in conversation with other individuals for well over 6 hours, and in quite diverse listening environments today. And as you see on the bottom, she hasn't suffered a fall today. And the beauty is I can track on previous days and see what her score was. And then as well, if I want to take a deeper dive to see exactly when she went for her run this morning, she did get up and get out early. And so this really, as Judy says, provides peace of mind for family members or caregivers to know, are their loved ones wearing their hearing aids? Are they getting up and exercising? Physical activity, which we know is tied to comorbidity with a lot of other important health conditions, but also, are they engaging in conversations with other individuals? Are they just wearing the hearing aids and sitting at home, or are they engaging in conversations with other individuals? So in this case with Judy, that would not prompt me to text her or call her. But then conversely, if I look at one of my other colleagues, Chris Quarantines, one of my local colleagues, again, it's middle of the night, but by comparison, all I have to do is pull down and it refreshes the score. Literally, if you looked at Judy's Thrive score right now on her phone, you would see that it was essentially the same as what I'm viewing in real time. But if someone, even later in the day, hasn't been wearing their hearing aids, hasn't been engaging in conversation, or hasn't been getting up and moving around, it might at the very least prompt me to text them or call them or even check in on them with a physical visit if I'm local. But the beauty is, as you can see, I can monitor this from around the world and ensure that my loved ones are safe, that they're physically active and socially engaged. I do want to put in a plug. As a baby boomer, as they say, Mark Twain said, rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated. And I like to use this as a means of competing with my friends as well around the world. So don't write off the boomers as just wanting to have you take care of us. We also want to be actively engaged in this process. We want to hear better, live better throughout every stage of our life. And if we go back from take away from the Thrive Care app now and go to my slides, if you would, Josh, what I'd like to do is really just highlight a couple comments that have been made by patients regarding how Livio AI and now Livio Edge AI has been life-changing in terms of this motivation to get them up, become more physically active, more socially engaged. But then with the introduction of fall alerts and now Thrive Care, if you'd advance, what we're hearing from patients and their families is that this is actually even providing life-saving technology. We've heard from family members who were worried about their loved ones living independently, but they wanted to remain in their home. And if they fell, the economic and the societal and the emotional costs of falls really are a struggle that many caregivers face on a daily basis. And we've heard from many of them how this is not only life-changing, and we're not saying it, they're saying it, that it's life-saving technology. And as we move to the next slide now, in this case, what you see is we've been on this path, if you will, of healthable hearing technology to move beyond the single-purpose device that is importantly amplifying speech in quiet and noisy and listening environments so that it can be heard, into these healthable hearing technology. And I do want to point out, if you can see on the camera, we talked about the custom devices, and you notice that for my right ear, I've chosen a color that doesn't match my skin tone because as a baby boomer, I am less stigmatized by hearing loss and hearing aids than my parents were, but I have higher expectations for what they can do. And I think you'll share in our passion for what we've reinvented the hearing aid to incorporate this healthable tech. But many patients still like to have devices, and you can get them in colors that match skin tone as well. This one you probably see a lot less in my left ear, and with that 2.4 gigahertz rechargeable custom technology that couples directly to Android or iPhones, we hope that you'll be as excited as we are to really launch that on the market. When we look at how these other comorbid conditions, we know that hearing loss is in many cases correlated with isolation, depression. In this COVID era, many of us are realizing that importance of what we've taken for granted in the past of healthy hearing is with this social isolation has led to even loneliness. And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. But also the other areas we've known for some time that cardiovascular disease has strong comorbidities with hearing loss, whether it's diabetes, risk of stroke, high blood pressure, et cetera. You're familiar with the cognitive decline research that shows correlations in the aging population between untreated hearing loss and cognitive function. And then as well, safety and balance. We talked about fall detection. Even a mild hearing loss places a person at 3 times the risk factor elevation to have a history of falling. And every 10 dB of loss above that mild degree is accompanied by an increased or elevated risk of falling. And so we want to, and we'll talk a little bit later about some of the areas that we're working on with regards to fall detection and fall prevention. But loneliness in that lower right-hand corner, 1 in 5 people with a hearing loss are lonely. And as I said, during this COVID era, I think many of us have come to realize the importance of the social engagement. And whereas hearing loss is often an undetected or a sense that is taken for granted until it's lost, I want to play a brief video from our Chief Health Officer, Dr. Arkel Giorgio, who talked at our expo this year, a couple months ago, about this impact and epidemic of loneliness that is facing modern society.
And here's how it works. Your body perceives a threat: lack of food, lack of water, lack of social connection. And that causes the brain to send out hormonal signals to tell the body to begin making cortisol, adrenaline, or epinephrine. And that begins a whole cascade of events in the body that are coordinated in order for you to be able to flee, to run away, to protect yourself. So what happens? Well, your heart rate and your blood pressure go up so that you can get more blood flow to your muscles and run. The airways in your lungs expand so that you can get more oxygen to your brain, so that you have an increased state of alertness. Your blood clotting factors actually become more active so that if you are physically attacked and bleeding, you're more likely to stop bleeding and you don't bleed to death. And your liver mobilizes glucose from storage sources so that you have more energy. And your immune system goes into standby mode to conserve energy. So all of that is protective because it gives you the opportunity to put all the resources that you have into protecting yourself. But what happens when you're in a constant state of threat, when you're in a constant state of hunger or thirst? What happens when you have decreased hearing and you have a constant state of loneliness? The increased blood pressure and heart rate end up being risks and can lead to heart disease. The increased ability to clot increases your risk of strokes. Having persistently high glucose increases your risk of diabetes. And not having an immune system that's functioning properly, surveilling the viruses that are in the environment, puts you at a higher risk for cancer. There's also an effect of cortisol on the brain itself. So if you're protecting yourself, it is helpful to be distrustful and aggressive because you want to know what's behind your back. But again, what happens when you are persistently like that? Well, cortisol affects the prefrontal cortex of the brain. That's the part of your brain that gives you your personality. It gives you your filters. It gives you your judgment. So what happens when you're persistently aggressive and distrustful? You're not very fun to be around. And so people and you will tend to not socialize with each other. So loneliness begets loneliness. You become more socially isolated and have fewer interactions. And that in turn leads to dementia. But I'm going to ask the question again, but why? What's happening in the brain to lead to neuronal cell death to cause dementia? Well, the answer is not completely clear, but we know from MRI scans that people with loneliness actually have decreased brain volume. And there's three possible mechanisms. One is that there could be damage from the cortisol itself, damage from having constant high blood pressure attacking and damaging the cells of the brain. Another possibility is that when you don't have social connection, that means that your brain isn't being tasked to learn, to judge, to interact, and to create new connections. And your brain is like a muscle. It's a use it or lose it. So if you're not using your brain, those brain cells are just going to shrivel and die. The result of all of this, decreased brain volume, fewer neurons, and a decreased ability to have memories.
Great. So we've talked about some amazing technology, and we really want to make sure that we provide you with a solution to meet every single one of your patients' needs. So we spent a lot of today talking about all of the amazing features that you have in our new Livio Edge AI premium product. So the Livio Edge AI will be the new 2400 healthable hearing aid. But what we're really excited about today is to introduce Livio AI for all. So now we can take a lot of these healthable features and we're bringing them all the way down to the 1200 level. So 3 technology tiers when it comes to that AI technology. And if we break it down and look at the features, what you'll see here is that even down to that 1200 level, you have a lot of the amazing features that Dave and I have been talking about today. So that brain and body score can be seen even in that 1200 level. They've got the ability to use the tap control, the self-check, and Dave mentioned Hearing Care Anywhere, which is so important in these times, and that's the remote programming system that we have, and that Hearing Care Anywhere is available in every single Livio AI or Livio Edge AI product. So what you can see here when we bring this all together is this is an amazing launch for you. We now have Livio Edge AI at that top 2400 level for your healthable hearing aid. We have Livio AI for all in the 2000, 1600, and 1200 level. Dave talked about that amazing table mic, which is going to benefit patients in so many situations. We've got custom 2.4 gigahertz rechargeable hearing aids. We've got the Thrive app and now the Thrive Care app for caregivers and all of our wonderful accessories. So a lot for you right now, but I'm going to throw it back to Dave so he can talk a little bit about what's coming in the future.
Thanks, Judy. Yeah, I do want to just return to that previous slide for a minute to highlight again the way that we really, I think, have expanded our choice of solutions to include a comprehensive array that encompasses, as Judy said, both custom and standard products for 2.4 gigahertz technology that are compatible with both iPhone and Android direct streaming options now with those latest Samsung Galaxy phones, as well as the Google Pixel 3 and 4 phones in rechargeable and replaceable batteries. It's been remarkable to see the rapid transition for patients wanting that option of rechargeability, and whether it's with the standard case or the turbocharger, which I wouldn't take too lightly in terms of thinking the industry's only solution that offers a 20% boost in battery to prevent range anxiety that often accompanies rechargeability, to give 20% boost in battery in a 7-minute charge. And really to give them that comfort in their pocket, a very pocketable recharger, and also a portable charger to take if and when we can go back to the days when we can travel again. And then as well, this complement of accessories, as Judy said, and I'm really excited that we can now offer those multiple tiers to meet the budgets of Livio AI for all, offering those solutions that Judy mentioned. But where are we going? And a little bit of a glimpse into our future in terms of the roadmap. You're going to continue to see a focus on ensuring that we're providing the best hearing aid technology that is patient focused. First and foremost, that job one is to deliver outstanding sound quality and speech intelligibility in all listening environments. Beyond that, however, the areas that we're focused intently on are these healthable solutions, as Dr. Arkel Giorgio talked about, looking at those areas increasingly as we're living longer. There is strong comorbidity with other important health conditions and hearing loss, and even polymorbidity. In many cases, as we age, there are multiple health conditions. Judy mentioned earlier, even something as simple as the fact that by the time you're 80 or 85, it's very likely that you'll have a hearing loss and visual deficits that have moved from front of the eyeball to back of the eyeball. Thinking about the user engagement to make those user controls intuitive and easy to see and understand. If I have arthritis as well, looking at those, and then all of the other health conditions that we mentioned, and I'll highlight more in a moment. And then increasingly, the focus on augmenting intelligence, if you will, from using the personal voice assistant to enable not only asking a question of the internet, or now being able to command your hearing aids to operate. I think increasingly it's this reflection. And my history with computers and technology has dated back to the days when I had to bootstrap a computer to start it to use it, then go to a keyboard, then a mouse, now my finger, and increasingly a voice. And thinking about our patients, it's not only talking to Alexa or Siri or Google, but it's understanding the answer in a discrete fashion, whether it's a reminder or a response to a query to Alexa. So these multifunctional activities are really, going back to what Dawn said, our attempt to make hearing aids cool and to turn them from a device that people have to wear into something that they want to have, and really removing or reducing that stigma. But always, always, job one is to focus on speech intelligibility and sound quality in all listening environments. Now, I want to just highlight a little bit of an imagine if you will, some of the areas that we're working on just a little bit into the future. And I'll talk briefly about a couple of those. Imagine first, we discussed at the start of this, and Achin, our CTO, talked about the way that we're incorporating artificial intelligence today. And remember when we started talking about neural networks and deep neural networks, thinking about the most advanced artificial intelligence that incorporates initially processing that could be done on the phone and in the cloud, that isolates speech from complex acoustic sound in that acoustic soup, if you will, to enhance it for those with hearing loss to understand speech effortlessly. Not as we think of it today as noise reduction in a traditional sense, but thinking about truly speech enhancement that is afforded when we're applying deep neural networks with artificial intelligence. We're working aggressively on those strategies that incorporate processing that can be on board the devices like edge mode, on and incorporating the phone, and even with the cloud. A second area, we talked about comorbidities, cardiovascular disease and hearing loss. If you talk to a cardiologist, they will often tell you in the aging individual that the ear is often the best barometer of cardiovascular health in the aging population, especially if those individuals didn't have a hearing loss earlier in life and are now starting to acquire a hearing loss. It's because anything that restricts blood flow to the ears, to the eyes, to those peripheries also impacts cardiovascular health overall. Imagine this window, if you will. The ear is a remarkably great spot to monitor things like pulse, but also beyond heart rate, looking at heart rate recovery or heart rate variability, SpO2, even blood pressure without using a pressure cuff, diabetes monitoring in the future, starting to think about ways that we can go and turn the ear into a portal for measuring vital symptoms that are important to cardiovascular disease, which is so vital to our longevity. Imagine if as well we had the capability of monitoring directly in the ear in real time temperature for temperature elevation. When we think about the COVID era that we live in today, being able to detect just a slight elevation in temperature can help identify whether individuals are showing early symptoms of disease or of a virus. When you think about monitoring individuals with autoimmune illnesses like lupus, RA, some of the other conditions that often have a hearing component with them, they are at some of the greatest risk for things like COVID-19, and being able to monitor on an ongoing basis temperature in the ear, which is again a very good place to measure and monitor body temperature, is another area we're working on. Also, imagine if we could monitor from the voice emotion recognition and detection of health issues from voice and early warning. We know again from our cardiology colleagues, one of the most important things after people have a cardiovascular event is to know whether that person is at risk for being rehospitalized. We can measure and monitor using our acoustic sensors, if you will, microphones, in combination with artificial intelligence to notice changes in vocal patterns that can provide an early warning indicator of emotion and of health detection and health issues rather. And we're working on those areas very aggressively. And then finally, what about monitoring brain state and brain state management? Certainly, we know that issues related to restorative sleep, relaxation, mindfulness, or improved focus are all capable of being monitored at the ear with embedded sensors and electrodes to monitor deep sleep with delta waves, relaxation through alpha waves, and focused beta waves. And we're working aggressively on technologies like binaural beats to see if they can be applied to help us get more sleep, to help us be more mindful and more relaxed during these very stressful times, and to also help us improve our focus and attention as we continue on this pathway, this gateway to health and wellness, to hear better and live better. One of the issues, of course, is power. And today is an auspicious event as well. Still just barely today, if you will, was June 30th of 1948 was when Bell Labs, which has a rich tradition in America and around the world in terms of auditory research, but on June 30th of 1948, Bell Labs announced the development of the first transistor. Why is that important? Well, actually, hearing aids were among the first, if not the first, electronic wearable devices to incorporate transistors. The very first hearing aid was introduced just a couple years later in 1952, the Sonotone 1010 device, and it incorporated transistors that made hearing aid performance more reliable, more durable. What we've seen consistently over those years is that the performance of these transistor devices, these wearable low power transistor devices, have improved their processing speed and clock frequency. The number of transistors on our next generation of product will be 6 times what they are on Livio Edge AI today, and the memory capacity is roughly 8 times. So of what we have right now in the devices that patients will be fitted with Livio Edge AI. So when we talk about the possibilities, the imagination of focusing on those patient benefits, of being able to think about things that tie to other comorbidities, that tie to restorative sleep and focused attention to those other conditions, the sky is the limit when we start thinking about technology. And as has been attributed to a number of sources, the difficult we do immediately, the impossible just takes a little bit longer. And we're working aggressively to try to develop technology with a purpose. And that purpose is always putting our technology in your hands to help optimize the benefits for individual patients in their real world environments. And with that, I will wrap. And we have some time for questions, I think, today, and maybe a few closing remarks.
That's great. Thanks very much, Dave. And what a very exciting future we have to look forward to here. What we'd like to do is take some of your questions live. So in your chat box, please pop your questions in. If we don't get to them all this afternoon, then we will send an email with the answers in the next 24 hours. But Judy, do you want to answer some questions, read some questions out for us?
Absolutely. So Dave, this first question is for you. And it says, hi, Dave. It's from Belinda. Nice to have you with us. What is your favorite feature of the Livio Edge AI?
Well, great question. For me, I really, really enjoy, and I wear them all day, every day. Judy will vouch for me because I'm usually, she's looking up at my Thrive score, usually.
He's usually ahead of me.
Of
I hate
all
to
of the
admit it.
features,
I hate to admit it, but.
Just teasing, Judy. But of all of the features, I will admit that I'm a competitive sort. And I do challenge myself, especially during these times, to be physically active. It's hard when we're isolated, either at work from home or even in a work environment, to be physically active. And I'm the most easily gamified person in the world. So getting those 10,000 steps and remaining socially active is important when you reach my accelerated age. So that's one feature. But I really like Edge. Edge mode is something that I think I'd really encourage you to have your patients try in those environments, because it doesn't replace the function of the professional. But importantly, when you think about a first-time hearing aid user, or certainly someone that's coming to you for the first time, you're using averaged data to assess and fit those patients. What I mean by that is when you're doing an audiogram, you're assessing their hearing relative to a population normal. And so we know that two people with the same audiogram may have very different experiences with amplification. Part of the role of the secret sauce, if you will, of that professional is learning what makes that patient tick, what about their environments. And we know that during this COVID era that we're all living in Australia, kudos to Australia in terms of the way you're managing this pandemic, much better than what we're doing here in the States. But what Edge mode does is really puts the power in the patient's hands to be able to go into a challenging environment, whether it's noisy, like you heard the example, or I'd encourage you when, as many of us are doing here, not so much where you are, wearing masks, you can use Edge mode to tap and engage that, and it will actually optimize that attenuated speech to be able to enhance that mode and crisp up the voice a little bit more. So I really like Edge mode for a variety of reasons. And I think that it truly is a feature that is changing attitudes about what hearing aids can do. And it really puts that power into those baby boomers' hands who, like me, want to control their environment. So I really like Edge mode, but I could go on and on about all of these features. But if you force me to choose one, I'd say Edge mode is my favorite new feature, and the Thrive score is my continued feature for that competitive nature.
And I know firsthand how competitive you are. I'll take the next question, and it's keeping with edge mode. And the question is, why wouldn't I have edge mode active all of the time? This question is from Emma. And I'll answer that. The reason is, if you think about how edge mode works, the hearing aids are constantly analyzing the environment, trying to figure out what's going on in that patient's environment. And then when they engage edge mode, it's looking at just about the last 10 seconds. And so we wouldn't leave it on all the time, because once you engage edge mode, it's going to give you those aggressive settings to give you the best comfort and clarity for that environment you're in, and it's going to fix them at those settings for that environment. And so since every environment you go in is completely different, so if I engage edge mode in the pub, now that I can go back to them, it's going to give me the ideal settings for that pub environment. But when I leave the pub and I'm walking home, it might be windy, it might be quiet. It's a completely different environment. So I'd want to disengage, and if I want more clarity and comfort, I can re-engage it as I get into another environment. So I kind of like to think of it as having an amazing pair of sunglasses. They might be amazing, but they're not going to be appropriate for every single situation. They'd be great on that sunny day, but if it's a cloudy day or I'm inside, I'm going to go for something different. And that's the way edge mode works. You re-engage it for the next environment. So I'll move on to the
you again from ludicrous mode from Tesla, because I love cars. You wouldn't want to have that insane acceleration. And I think Judy's example of the sunglasses is a great one too, that specialized condition for that unique environment. You don't want or need it active all the time. And in fact, that specific use case for those extreme listening conditions is why we developed this. But you wouldn't want to apply it all the time, but it's a great question.
Perfect. I will, sorry, the questions were changing. I'll throw this one back to you, Dave. We had a question on how long the charge takes and how much charge you get, I assume for the custom rechargeable devices.
Yeah, so 3.5 hours for a full charge from completely depleted to fully charge on the custom. Again, we wanted to develop a technology that gave patients the confidence to get all-day use out of that rechargeable solution in that very compact and aesthetically pleasing package. So 23 hours of battery life with up to 4 hours of streaming and a 3.5-hour recharge rate, so that if they needed to top off at the end of the day. But I can tell you, wearing both the custom devices and the RIC devices on a regular basis, even in this COVID era where I'm streaming a lot more podcasts and a lot more webinars, I have not had the condition. It's been very rare where I've had that range anxiety, even at the end of a long day like today.
Perfect. So we'll take 2 more questions, and then we'll answer the rest online within the next 24 hours. I'll take the next question from Josh, and it says, can the table microphone work with devices that were fit a year ago? Absolutely. The best thing about the table mic is that it's compatible with every single Livio, Livio AI, and Livio Edge AI device. I will tell you that the hearing aids do need to be on the newest firmware. So anything that was fit prior to the November 1st launch last year, the 2019 November launch, if it was fit prior to then, the patient would just need to come into the office to have a firmware update to their hearing aids, but then it would make them compatible. Anything fit after November 1st, 2019, it's already completely compatible. So all technology tiers, all devices. And then the last questions we'll take right now, I'll throw this back to you, Dave, if that's okay. You spoke a little bit about hearing care anywhere. So the question is, how can the Livio devices be used in a teleaudiology approach?
Okay, great question. Currently, for Livio AI and Livio Edge AI devices, our approach with telehealth currently is to use an asynchronous solution. So when you think of asynchronous, it's sort of the Facebook approach versus a synchronous or real-time solution being a FaceTime solution. Both have their place and both have their advantages. Quite frankly, we think that asynchronous is a solution that is more amenable to many clinical environments, because you can apply the requests that come in from the patient to make a change, a minor adjustment, a fitting adjustment, and then go into Inspire with the full control of Inspire to make adjustments on the basis of an initiated request that the patient will make directly from their Thrive app for a specific listening environment. They can indicate, and you will, I know Judy announced that we'll have a more comprehensive training on Hearing Care Anywhere later. But what this can do is, when the patient's having difficulty, they initiate a request at that moment in time, and then it provides you with the opportunity within 24, 48 hours, or whatever interval you decide, to make those adjustments, send them back to the cloud. The patient receives a notification on their app, on their phone, and then they can apply the settings in the situation where they're having difficulty. They can save it until they go back into that environment. They can see whether it's better than what they've already got programmed, and either keep or reject any changes that are made. And then if they accept the changes, it's applied as a permanent change. And one thing we've seen from studies is that is up to 30% of most clinical appointments for the average clinic are for minor fine-tuning adjustments. One thing, if there is a silver lining out of this horrible pandemic, is that even though telehealth has been available for over 25 years, people are starting to understand that it's a way to make it more convenient for the patient and also for the professional to be able to make fine-tuning adjustments without always requiring a face-to-face visit. So currently, Hearing Care Anywhere is an asynchronous approach that is convenient for the patient to initiate a request, for the professional to do it in between patients at the end of the day at scheduled times, make adjustments, send them to the cloud, and the patient can apply those. We are, however, in recognition of some of those who may want a synchronous solution, we're working aggressively towards providing a real-time synchronous solution that will incorporate video so that you can see and talk to the patient in real time. We know that patients find that convenient, but we also know that in many cases you have to be careful, because you can already think of the 1 or 2 patients that will become quite demanding that you drop everything else you're working on in order to meet their solution. But we want to recognize and provide solutions that will offer both asynchronous, as currently deployed, and synchronous solutions for telehealth, because we think that this is increasingly going to become a part of best practice and a way for clinicians and patients to be taking care of their health and be more efficient in the way that they manage their care.
Perfect. Well, that's something really exciting to look forward to. That's all the time we have for questions right now, but we will definitely get back to you with the answers to your questions within the next day.
Thanks, Judy, and thanks, Dave, again. So this is officially our launch date. So if you have any questions around when are the devices, so Livio Edge AI, Livio AI to all, and our amazing custom products, they're available from today. And of course, it wouldn't be quite right, would it, to launch a product without what we would say is a promotion on the edge. So what we are doing as from today, for your very first order of Livio Edge AI purchased, we'll actually give you another free product. Now, there are some conditions around that, around it being not including the custom product, so that's excluding that product, but particularly the RIC R devices. So with every first purchase of Livio Edge AI, we'll match that and offer you a free product as well. So I do encourage you, give the products a go. They are absolutely awesome. And I'm going to hand back to Judy now. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, if you want more information on all these exciting products that we talked about today, we have 3 product training webinars that are fully endorsed. We'll have 2 next week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday actually, and then one the following Thursday. So we'll get into more detail specifically on Edge AI and Edge Mode and all the other healthable features in the first one. We'll spend some time going into more detail on the custom rechargeable devices and table mic in the second one. And then lastly, we'll spend some great detail going through both the Thrive app as well as Thrive Care. Excuse me. You can register for all of these webinars by going to our Learning Hub, and we'll be sending out the link to this, but it's www.starkeylearninghub.com.au. There's information on everything you need on all of these webinars, and you can register there as well. As a reminder, today's class was endorsed for points by Accord, Audiology Australia, and HESA. Your endorsement numbers are there on the screen. And in order to get those points, you must pass the 10-question quiz, and you'll have 1 week to do so. And we'll be sending out that link shortly after the class ends today.
Okay, that's almost a wrap. I would like to say a very huge thank you to Dave, to Judy, to everybody for joining us live this afternoon, including the people from Asia Pac, where we've had people from Singapore, Thailand, Taiwan, and Guam join us. So thank you very much for you joining us as well. What I'd like to do is leave you with a short movie clip. And again, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you in the flesh very soon. Thank you and goodbye.
Well, the only reason Starkey is in business is to help people. Our specialty is hearing.
At Starkey, we're about connecting people with people through better hearing.
We want to make the best products to help the world have the best hearing experience possible. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we come into work every day.
We want them to hear better, but we want to expand on that, and we really genuinely care about how do they live a better life.
I just love that we're a company focused on improving people's lives, helping them to hear better.
There's a lot of great technology companies, but really good products come when people do it from their heart. And we make our decisions based on what's best for the end user.
Focusing on the needs of the patients allows us to always do what's right by the patient. And if we do what's right by the patient, we always do what's right by the customer.
The intention is so that our customers can serve their patients better than anyone else.
The technology can only get you so far. Our technology in the professional's hands, we think has the best opportunity to provide patient delight.
Early on, I realized that the hearing aid could be more than an amplification device.
The ear is a ripe place for health and wellness features, and it's also a cognitive gateway to your brain.
For a long time, for decades, hearing aid has a single function. It was designed to take sound and amplify sound. By tapping into advanced technologies such as sensors, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, we have reinvented the hearing aid to do a lot more than just amplify sound.
We absolutely are reinventing the hearing aid.
We're putting things like fall detection, heart rate monitor, activity tracking, all into our hearing aids.
We're taking it from a single-purpose device to a multi-purpose device.
There's no other device like it today on the market, and we're proud of the fact that we're delivering the best sound quality and the best quality of instrument.
And in fact, what we're doing is turning hearing aids from a have-to-wear device into a want-to-have device, and just that way making hearing aids a little bit cool.
As an audiologist, I guess I've always thought hearing aids are cool.
And it's pretty awesome to be able to say that you're part of that.
We are going to do things that no one else has done, and we're going to achieve those things because we have commitment, dedication, and we know the ear better than anyone.